Welcome to the deep dive. There's that big question so many of us wrestle with, sometimes quietly, sometimes out loud. Do all spiritual paths kind of lead to the same mountaintop? Are there just different ways cultures try to make sense of things, or is there something more specific? We often wonder, if maybe every tradition just holds a piece of the puzzle.
It's a really fundamental human question, isn't it? This deep need to understand where we came from, why we're here, what truth even is. And for this deep dive, we're going to dig into a really thought-provoking piece. It's titled The God of the Bible, Truth, Purpose, and Redemption, written by Sophia Samuels.
That's right. And our goal today, our mission really, is to explore how Sophia tackles this, why she believes the God of the Bible stands apart, and maybe more importantly, why she thinks that distinction matters for everyone. We'll get into her take on other gods, which might surprise you. We'll look at what she identifies as the unique core message and wrestle with this powerful idea about the difference between just knowing about faith and actually finding personal purpose in it. We want to pull out the key insights for you.
Yeah, one of the first things Sophia brings up is something that might turn a common assumption on its head for a lot of people. Many folks think the Bible just flat out denies that any other spiritual beings or, gods even exist. But her research suggests that's not quite the full picture according to the text itself.
Okay, that is interesting. I think that's a common takeaway. So if it doesn't just deny them, how does she explain it? What's the nuance there, according to the source?
Well, she points us straight to Psalm 82. This passage describes something often called a divine council. It actually shows God rebuking these other spiritual beings because they're ruling unjustly. And what Sophia emphasizes, drawing on scholars like Dr. Michael Heiser too, is that the word gods here, it's not meant as a metaphor. They're presented as real created spiritual entities.
Wow. Okay, so real entities, but created, not eternal like God himself. That does reframe things, doesn't it? So what makes Yahweh's position unique then in her analysis, beyond just being, the biggest one on the block?
Exactly. That's the key distinction. While these other beings exist, and the text even calls them Elohim or gods, the source stresses they are created. They aren't eternal. They don't sustain the cosmos. She highlights Psalm 82 verses 6 and 7. I said, you are gods, sons of the Most High, all of you. Nevertheless, like men you shall die. And then you get the contrast in Psalm 95.3. For the Lord is a great God and a great king above all gods. So only Yahweh, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, is shown as the uncreated creator, the ultimate king.
Right. Okay, that leads into what feels like a really central claim Sophia makes. She argues that out of, all the worldviews, philosophies, spiritual paths out there, only the God of the Bible offers something called redemption. That sounds like a huge differentiator. How does she explain that? What exactly does she mean by redemption here?
She sets up a stark contrast. Think about the paths you often hear about in various systems, and she lists some common ones. Earn your way back, prove your worth, become stronger, connect with your ancestors, meditate until you reach enlightenment. See the pattern. They're all based on human effort or heritage or self-improvement, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's about what we do. So the God of the Bible offers something completely different then. What is it?
It's grace. That's the word she lands on. Sophia really hammers this point. It's not about what we manage to do for God. It's about what God has already done for us, specifically through Jesus Christ. She points to verses like Romans 5.8. But God demonstrates his own love toward us in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. And also Luke 19.10, for the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost. This is the absolute core difference she identifies as salvation that's unearned, freely given. It fundamentally sets this worldview apart, in her view.
That's a profound difference. And it's compelling how she arrives there because Sophia Samuels doesn't describe this as just, accepting things blindly. She talks about her own pretty extensive research, reading widely even outside the Bible, digging into the original Hebrew and Greek, following scholars like Heiser you mentioned. She calls it a grounded faith, not blind faith, rooted in trying to find truth and evidence.
Absolutely. She really champions that kind of diligent search. Her writing implies that this grounded faith isn't afraid of questions. It actually involves seeking understanding, looking at the evidence. It reminds me a bit of Hebrews 11.1, that idea of faith being the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. There's an intellectual component to it.
But then she makes this really crucial turn, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Knowing all this stuff, having all this information, it isn't actually the end goal. knowledge by itself, she argues, doesn't automatically bring salvation or healing or that deep sense of peace. I think maybe we can all relate to that feeling sometimes, being overloaded with information but still feeling kind of empty.
Yes, this is a really critical pivot in her piece. She warns against being, quote, full of information but empty of revelation. She even references 2 Timothy 3.7 about people who are always learning and never able to arrive at a knowledge of the truth.
Yeah.
Her point is, if you don't find your why you exist, why the world seems broken, why you personally matter to God, then all that knowledge, however deep, can just become, well, she calls it spiritual noise.
Yeah.
Loud, but hollow.
So it boils down to that classic distinction, maybe. Knowing about God versus actually knowing God. One fills the head,
while the other transforms the heart and life.
Exactly. Sophia puts it beautifully, I think. Truth isn't just something to study, truth is someone to follow. And she anchors this directly in Jesus' words in John 14.6, I am the way and the truth and the life. He's presented not just as a teacher of truth, but as truth itself made flesh, like John 1.14 says. Her work contrasts this strongly with systems proposing humans ascend up to enlightenment or divinity. Here, the claim is that God as truth came down to bring us home. So the message for you listening seems to be definitely pursue knowledge, ask the hard questions, explore, but do it with direction. Sophia suggests it's not just about how much you know, it's about, quote, the direction of your heart, finding that anchor in both truth and purpose, which she finds uniquely in Jesus.
And connecting all this to the bigger picture, her piece then zooms out. It argues that the Bible isn't just some localized history book for one ancient people. She presents it as a genuine world story.
Yeah.
One that shows God's concern, his heart, for all people, right from the very start.
That's a huge claim, too, a world story. How does she see that starting in the Bible itself? Where's the evidence for that global scope early on?
Well, it goes right back to Abraham. Sophia clarifies that when God called Abraham, it wasn't just to start a single nation. It was framed as a global mission from day one. Genesis 12.3 states it clearly, in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed. Her work really stresses this. It was a plan for global blessing, meant to go way beyond just one ethnic group right from the beginning.
And that vision, that thread of a worldwide embrace, it runs all the way through, right to the very end of the biblical story.
It absolutely does. It culminates in that powerful image in Revelation 7.9. John sees a great multitude that no one could number, from every nation, from all tribes and peoples and languages, standing before the throne. And Sophia points out, look, the unity described there isn't based on shared culture or ancestry or specific rituals. It's based purely on grace. It paints a picture of Jesus as the ultimate unifier, bringing together this incredibly diverse group in a world that's often so divided.
Wow, what a journey through Sophia Samuel's arguments in The God of the Bible, Truth, Purpose, and Redemption. We started with that perhaps unexpected view of other spiritual beings in the Bible, real but created. Then we moved to what she sees as the truly unique offering, redemption through grace, not our own striving. And finally, landing on that critical distinction between just gathering knowledge about God and truly knowing him, finding purpose in that relationship.
Yeah, and she wraps it up pretty personally, saying she searched deeply, widely, and honestly. And for her, only the God revealed in Jesus provided answers that satisfied both the need for truth and the longing for purpose. So the question she kind of leaves hanging for you, if you're on that search yourself, is what would it mean for you not to settle for just, fragments of truth here and there, but to really go after what she calls the whole truth?
How might looking for that kind of integrated truth and purpose, as she describes it, change the way you approach knowledge, meaning, and maybe even your own life? Whether it's through digging into sources like this one or through your own ongoing exploration, we hope you find that joy of discovery, of gaining insights that really resonate and feel relevant.